Well, it might be early February, it's freezing cold and pretty grim, but the bream are feeding and we're here at Chard Res. We've come down today to have a little look at a couple of the new rods that are finishing off the Milo Silent range. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to run you through the entire range. The Milo lads have been using these now for a couple of years. I've brought my set of rods here, as you can see they're filthy, but I'm going to run you through exactly what each and every model can do and what sort of fishing it suits. We've got models from 10 foot, 11 foot, 12s, 13s and soon to be 14 as well. But what we'll do is have a quick look at the 10 foot model. Fantastic super slim blank. These rods really are probably the ultimate commercial rod in my eyes. A 10 foot rod that will do everything in winter that you need it to. It's got lovely soft tips. The tips that come with the rod, you've got a 1 ounce, a 1.5 and a 2 ounce tip. Everything from popped up bread or small skimmer fishing in the middle of winter to straight leading for big weights of carp through the summer. This is the rod that's going to do it for you. Beautiful slim bank, mini K guides throughout and a Fuji reel seat completes it. A real stunning piece of kit. I've got to say at this stage I've been doing more and more feeder fishing over the last couple of years, and one of the reasons is I just love using these rods. It's such a bit of an excuse really to get out and actually use them, and I come down here to Chard, I've fished my local reservoirs. They're just absolutely stunning pieces of kit. The blanks never cease to amaze me. It's very rare I get excited about a range of rods the way I've done about these. They're not the cheapest rods on the market, granted they are a high spec rod, but again they're not the most expensive either. So I definitely think you should have a look at these if you're in the market for a new top end rod. So we've got the 10 foot rod that I would class as the perfect commercial tool. Moving on to your 11 foot, again a similar blank to the 10 foot. This will do everything you need. This is the rod I've been using up my local Pontstickle reservoir, catching small skimmers and fishing up to sort of 40 or 50 meters. Again, a beautiful soft tip. You've got plenty of backbone through the lower section, which again, like the 10 footer, makes it a perfect commercial tool if you need it to. It's quite at home. You can see I've got my one here set up with braid, so I've been using this for small skimmers, but it will catch all the carp you can ever imagine on a commercial. Absolutely stunning tool. Moving into the 12 foot, and now this is where it starts to get interesting, because the 12 foot model we've got here is rated at 60 gram. Now this is probably as good a bream rod as I've ever picked up. Bream and skimmers, it's beautifully soft. You can punch 50 grams, 50, 60 meters with it quite comfortably. And you'll notice, as with all the others, we've got the mini K guides throughout. And these really do help, you know, the line and the braid hug the rod blank and give you a really nice precise curve. Same reel seat throughout, Fuji reel seat. And in fairness, you don't really realize how important it is until you've had problems with reel seats, and you know, a good reel seat is a must. As I said, a 12 foot, this is a 2-piece. Tips again with a 12 foot, 1 ounce, 1.5 and 2 ounce. And I use this an awful lot for fishing in the realms of 40 to 60 meters. This is classed as 60 gram, and to give you a bit of a guide, and certainly with the 13 footers this applies as well. The guide is, if you're looking at a 60 gram 12 footer, this is the rod I'd fish up to 60 meters. It's not quite how it works in terms of casting weights and whatnot, but having used these now over the last few years, it works out perfectly, certainly in my mind. If I'm looking to fish relatively calm conditions up to 50, 60 meters, this is the rod I go for. To get your maximum distance and do it comfortably, couple it up with a decent sized reel, and you won't go far wrong. I'll quickly show you, I don't know if you can pick it up on here, but how important the K guides are. As anglers, we love a really nice looking bit of kit, and K-guides throughout ranges of rods really do set them off. As well as the aesthetics though, it's very important that we decrease what we call chances of frap ups. Now a frap up is basically where the line comes off the spool, it hooks over the guide, and you get a crack off. It happens regularly, but these K-guides are something that will alleviate it. Unsure if you can see just there, you can see the dye off my braid. Now that shows you, that's a great example of how the coils of line, when you're casting, how the coils clip the blank, and you know there is potential for a frap up there. With these guides, I can honestly say I've never had it happen. Now there's two spots on a rod that can happen. Obviously the butt ring is probably the worst case for that happening, but also the tip ring. Now one feature with these rods is the recovery rate. When you cast a rod, and when we talk about recovery rate, we talk about the speed in which a rod goes from bent to straight. In a perfect scenario, you want a rod that's going to ping straight. That's going to aid distance, and that's also going to alleviate any chance of a frap up. Now the problem you've got with softer rods is the wobble, and that's why a more expensive rod with a fast recovery that goes ping straight is going to stop any chance of a frap up. What happens when you cast is any wobble on the tip, as the tip does that after you've let the feeder go, again that's what causes tip frap ups and broken tips. It's the wobble in the rod that keeps back, again that drag that happens as the rod is straightening, that's holding back distance as well. So the recovery rate of a rod is very, very important when you're looking to achieve distance. Moving on to the 13 footers, there's two available. Now there's a 70 gram and a 90 gram. Now the 70 gram for me is just one of the loveliest bream rods I've ever picked up. For fishing here, I tend to fish with a 90 and a 70 when I come here. I have a 90 set up in case the weather kicks up, and I also use it for feeding. But for fishing 50, 60, 70 yards, I tend to do my fishing with the 70 gram model, just because it is an absolutely stunning bit of kit. Exactly like the 12 footer, you can see the dye off from my braid on the blank there. Again, another super slim blank that bends effortlessly. 2-3 ounce tips with this one, and it is a beautiful bream rod that will certainly catch you plenty of fish. Moving into the 13 foot. Now this is the big boy, and this is the rod I love to use on places like Landegford, somewhere that's big, wild, and you need a bit of backbone in a rod. This is the one. You can, as soon as you pick it up, you can feel there's slightly more weight in it. It's still beautifully balanced, with a good size reel. These rods are lovely. Again, K-guides throughout. I tend to fish this rod. I tend not to take my 3 ounce tips out of it because of the situations I'm using this rod in. They lend itself perfectly. Again, a good sized reel helps casting, helps distance, and gives you a lot of control. This 90 gram, I've fished comfortably up to 90 meters. As I said before, remember in the 12s and the 13s, 60 gram 12 footer for up to 60 meters. I'd fished a 70 gram 13 footer up to sort of 70 meters, and the 90 gram I'd be comfortably punching a feeder up to 90 meters. In all fairness, I've never needed to go any further than that. I'm sure in the right hands it will certainly go further than that, but not being a big casting expert, then it doesn't really apply to my fishing. So that's what I call the original 5 in the range. Now, one of the reasons we've come down here today is because there were 2 more models that I was quite keen to drop in. The first one being a 50 gram 11 foot. Now, throughout these 5 we've got here, they've all got exactly the same guides throughout. These 2 are slightly different. And the reason is this 50 gram 11 foot is, as far as I can see, it's the best short range skimmer and roach rod I've ever seen. It is unbelievable. It's so soft, it bends to the butt. Zach's caught a load on it today, and it really is a stunning piece of kit. The reason we changed the guides on these is for weight. It's such a delicate rod, and particularly the tips. The tips that come with it are 1/2 ounce, 1 ounce and 1.5 ounce. And it's such a delicate bit of kit that we wanted to make sure there wasn't any excess weight down the blank. Quite often you look down a rod as it's on the rest and the tip will just be hanging. Doesn't happen with this. This is absolutely beautiful. And if you're fishing braid direct with this, you hook a little roach, you know about it. The bites are like electric shocks. Absolutely stunning bit of kit. The other model, and this is the one I've been having to go with today, is the 12 foot 2-piece distance. Now I wanted a rod, a 12 foot 2-piece rod with a bit of backbone that you could propel a feeder if you're fishing method feeders, Boddingtons, Barstons, that sort of game. I wanted a rod where you can fish up to 90-100 meters with quite comfortably, and this is it. I'm fishing it today at 80 meters, and to be honest, it's relatively effortless, even for me. Big K guides running down the blank. One thing we've done with this is increase the guide size on the tips, because with the other range of rods, you're generally going to be fishing with braid most of the time. Certainly the 13 footers, if you're out in Ireland and things like that, a lot of it is braid fishing. The reason we've upped the size of the guides on this rod is because the situations you might be using it in, there might be a lot of mono fishing, and you might be using larger stop knots and shock leader knots. Again, the exact same graphics, livery, reel seat, and as far as rods go, everyone says which one's my favourite. I really don't know. Every rod I pick up and I fish with tends to be my favourite. This one, though, at the moment, is just on another level. It's so soft and bends beautifully with a fish on, but the recovery rate and the way it propels a feeder is quite exquisite. It's not really like anything I've used before, and every time I cast with it, I'm amazed, to be quite honest. It's I'm using today, I've got 026 mainline. I've just come off the River Wye. I've been using it on there, fishing for barbel with a heavy thick mono mainline. In all honesty, I just haven't had chance to change it over. I mean, in an ideal scenario here, I'd be fishing a thin mono mainline and then a shock leader. Well, I haven't had a chance today, so I'm fishing 026 straight through, and it's still relatively effortless putting this feeder to 80 meters. A wonderful bit of kit, and hopefully they'll be available for you soon.